Welcome to Venti Question Screen Discussions. I'm Chris.
And I'm Michael, and this is a show where we discuss everything from the silver screen to the small screen to even the streaming screen you may carry in your pocket.
Yeah, so that's true. We're going to put 30 minutes on the clock, and we're going to give our opinion on what we just watched.
That's right.
So, Michael, what did we just watch?
Well, tonight we went ahead and continued on our journey towards Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. And so we watched Ant-Man and the Wasp, the second entry from 2018 from Marvel.
We sure did. And what did you think about? How did it stack up to the first one?
I definitely have opinions on it. So we're going to go ahead and start our 30 minutes in 3, 2, 1. Okay, so let's break it up, right? Plot-wise. One of the things I talked about last time that I very much enjoyed was the heist film.
Sure.
This is still a heist in a way,
A little bit.
but it's more of a shell game,
Yeah.
right?
Well, magic trick, would you say?
Okay, the magic is awesome in this whole thing.
That part was good.
I think that it's interesting looking back at it now, right? And the way I say that is because obviously when we saw it in real life, it came out after Infinity War.
Mm-hmm.
And then we found out that this movie ends at the snap.
Yeah.
Right. And now we're living in a post Thanos world, right? In real life. And we already know how this movie affects shows and other things later.
Sure.
So I feel like I have a little bit different of a perspective on it. As far as the plot itself goes, I feel like it was well written.
Yeah.
I think that they followed up on how they wrote certain characters and developed them in a appropriate arc. Like nobody changed out of nowhere.
Sure.
But everybody increased a little bit. Everybody's doing a little bit better in the overall aspect, except for the fact that, Ant-Man is on house arrest because of Civil War.
Events that took place.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, Cap. That's what we call him, okay?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you, though. I think that, I think it used the original movie as a template for scenes in this movie. So they took some of those fun things we liked about the first one, like some of the storytelling component from Pena's character, right? Where he did like his whole needs to explain from the beginning, and then like he goes through the whole thing. I thought that was cool because that's what you really liked from the first one, little things like that. And they put that same humor, it hit the same way. Right. So I think they were smart about that. It wasn't like you were expecting one type of comedy style and then they gave you something a little different, or they tried to drag it out too much. They gave you this just enough, the same.
And let's continue on with that example, because that's a perfect example, right? In the first movie, Luis does it twice. Mm-hmm. He does it in the beginning and he does it in the end, where he does his like super like fast conversation of the storyline.
Right.
He only does it one time in this movie, and it's kind of near like the beginning of the third act, right? Which is just enough where it's like, hey, we know you love this, so we're going to bring it back, but we're not going to make it his whole shtick now. He still has a character arc.
Right.
He's now trying to go straight.
Sure.
He's the boss, right? He's trying to be better. He's dealing with things that he's not used to, so he's stressing. Like, it showed character development for this secondary side character.
Yeah.
But still, it referred back to the things that it knew that the audience loved and gave us a little more.
And it wasn't out of place the way they brought it in with the truth serum, and then they kept that same little funny, device that they used, comedic device, and they brought that into kind of tied it in toward the end of the movie too, with the bad guys and how that
it was, and the whole thing of it's not truth serum, and then finally it's just like it is truth serum.
It is truth serum.
It's so hilarious.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I'd say I really did enjoy the plot still. It wasn't
as tight.
It wasn't as tight. Yeah. And I think it's because this movie, they had some parameters to deal with.
Sure.
Right. It's part of the downside of the MCU in general is that when you're the first building block for your portion of the world, it's a very defined, cool, we know what we're going to do. But sometimes when you get to the second and third block, you got to start playing ball with everybody else's blocks. And so you have to make changes and things like that.
Well, it's got to fit in the puzzle piece.
It does.
And it's
one
tougher.
Little tiny cog.
It's easier when you're the corner piece, but when you're in the middle of the puzzle, or somewhere where you have to kind of find it and it's got to make sense.
Yeah.
It takes longer to you got to try to put it all together, and there's more sides you got to align, right?
No, absolutely.
That's really it. I think that some of the plot holes we're talking about would be more of just, this is going to sound funny because it's fiction and it's science fiction.
Oh, I know where you're going with it, and I'm already right there with you.
It's just the physics of the fiction.
So inconsistent. And so the biggest thing that frustrated me, and like complete total shout out to like New Rockstars and all the breakdowns they did after the first movie, talking about how the explanation that as they shrink, they become more dense and everything like that just doesn't make sense. Because if that's what happens, then when he shrunk that tank should have weighed more than like anything else. And he's just carried it around like it's nothing.
Right. They can carry a whole thing of cars in this little Hot Wheels container thing.
And it weighs the same as if it was a regular car, but it still has the same physics as if it wasn't when they choose for it. So that's like
it's
I'm
weird.
going to steal from another like franchise here. That's that timey-wimey bull crap. You know what I mean? But it's a fizzicky wizzicky.
Yeah, fizzicky wizzicky. Yeah.
So that is the biggest plot hole. And
no, the building is the biggest plot hole.
But the building is that goes right with it.
Yeah.
And once again, though, I think you were right. You were the one that called it out. All it would have taken for us to not have to bring it up every single time that they moved it was just show all the furniture being bolted down.
Yeah.
That's all you had to do.
What we're talking about is they keep shrinking and enlarging the building, and then they were like fighting with the building and doing stuff.
They smashed through a car window with the building.
The building.
And it had no damage.
No damage to the building. And then, but there's no explanation for this. Everything in the lab, which was all the sensitive equipment, was intact. Everything's great. They're able to still use it.
No issues.
Yeah, the ants were all alive.
And in fairness, we're being extremely nitpicky here because that's how good of a movie it was that we have to go this deep to really find a loophole.
But that was
plot hole. Sorry.
Biggest issue was the building for me. Yes, the whole density thing and all that.
I will say that a close second, and you did bring this up, was the speed variations of the cars when they would shrink and expand. Because sometimes it would show realistic, now they're not driving 50 miles per hour compared to the large size. They're driving 50 miles per hour compared to a small size, which is in reality like 2 miles per hour. But then in car chases, that didn't happen. It maintained speed. And I get it. Rule of cool. You know what I mean? You got to have fun stuffs. It's the whole thing with like Jurassic Park, the way that the T-Rex, when it's chasing the Jeep, it's actually moving slow as far as its movements, because if you moved it as if it was really running that speed, it looks comical. It looks like a cartoon.
Right.
So it's the same thing. You got to do what you got to do to make it look good too.
Yeah.
Let's talk about cast.
Yeah. Everyone came back.
Everyone came back, which, nowadays in the Marvel world,
For this one.
that makes sense. Yeah. There's no more Terrence Howard issues. Okay. I also will say they added some more people.
Yeah.
All positive ads.
Right.
The one guy, he always plays a scumbag. His name is Walton.
Yes.
Goggins.
I was going to bring him up. I have that on my little.
Oh, you have him up there too?
Yeah. I'm surprised he was in it because he's always like he's a C or B list actor in things. Not to say he's bad.
No.
His character always fits that kind of weird scumbag type character.
God, it's so mean to say something like this because I don't mean it like that, but it's kind of like Ron Howard's brother.
Yeah.
Because he looks a particular way and he sounds a particular way, you're kind of typecast to a particular type of character.
Sure.
Right? And this guy always plays a bad guy that's kind of dumb and usually ends up being more annoying than menacing. But he did it really well.
There's just something wrong, something off with him, right?
Yes. Like, I feel like he would fit in like Always Sunny in Philadelphia.
He was the bad guy. He was the villain in that Mel Gibson Santa Claus movie one that I was telling you.
Really?
Yeah.
So, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And it's awkward, and but it's the same guy. Like, as I'm saying, the same kind of character.
This is the one thing I'll say. When we're first introduced to him and he has that weird accent, I was like, I don't know if this is going to fit. And it fits.
Yeah, it worked.
The first time you saw it, I feel like for a half a like stutter step, you're like, uh-oh, this seems like it might have been a choice that was a little bit too far. And then it just, blends right back in.
What was interesting to me about that character is who he only interacted with. He really only interacted with Wasp, whatever her name is, Hope. And then he interacted with all of the employees at, Connex. He didn't interact with Scott Lang at all. Right?
Well, he interacted with Scott Lang 3 times.
Dialogue exchange?
Technically.
None.
And then,
there wasn't like
no, there was no dialogue.
Only because the type of character he is, a guy he plays in like that weird role, like they were going to have some back and forth moments of like,
right,
Scott Lang saying silly or funny to him, and then him saying something weird back.
This okay, we're going to tie slightly back to the plot, because this is probably the weakest portion of the plot.
Right. Was
their villain, because they realized this guy Sonny, he's not strong enough on his own to be the main villain.
Right.
The amount of depth they went in with Ghost, she was not strong enough on her own to be the main villain.
And she was just a character in pain, and that was the motivations, right? Like she was wrong, she was in pain, she just wants to be normal.
It was, in my opinion, a great way to introduce a morally gray character into the universe to then put on a bench and maybe pull back out for like the Thunderbolts.
Sure.
Right? And I think that was what that was.
Yeah. And
the way that they introduced Laurence Fishburne's character, I don't know his actual name. I know he was Goliath. Of course, now it won't work. Bill Foster, Dr. Bill Foster. The way that they did that, I thought that was also interesting. It kind of continued to paint the picture of Hank Pym was a jackass.
Right.
Nobody could work with him except for his wife. And anybody and everybody was dumb, in his opinion, and was useless.
Right.
And it really paints a bad, crotchety old man perspective, which, in fairness to the character, I mean, they're not having him be an alcoholic and the fact that he beat his wife. So, yay for him.
Right.
And actually, he's also the one that made Ultron, not Tony Stark.
Right.
So, he's getting away pretty clean here.
Right. Yeah, and so I liked that his character, it was consistent from the first one as well. He didn't all of a sudden just change. He showed a little bit more lightheartedness, toward the end when he has his wife and all that kind of stuff. But that makes sense. There's probably a lot of the motivation of, how he got even probably worse into being difficult to deal with, right?
Yeah, because he blames himself.
Right.
It sounds like I'm trying to push blame, but rightfully so, he blames himself.
Right.
He's the one that came up with the technology. He's the one that allowed her to then also take part in technology. His suit was the one that was messed up, forcing her to have to make the heroic choice.
Right.
All these things technically had the same starting point. You developed this suit.
Right.
And that's been the crutch of his life since.
Right. Yeah. But you're right. It explains the cantankerous old man type.
That's perfect word for that too. Yeah. Nice.
So he so I like that. They kept that consistent. Who else? The de-aging we talked about, right?
Oh, okay. So yes, let's
so we'll save that for the part of it.
The only other acting aspect I really want to touch on is there's 2 other things, right? So Randall Park joined up as Jimmy Woo. Sorry.
Woo.
And not only was he an awesome character in this movie, but when they then used him later on in the timeline, as we already know now, obviously with WandaVision, like the character's awesome.
because they showed a weird development with that character where he learned magic.
Oh, the second, I think it was literally the first episode in WandaVision when he does the card trick. I was freaking out. I'm like, oh, he learned it. He learned it.
Yeah.
So it's really cool what they did with that character. And the other thing is the little girl. I want to say her name. Abby Ryder Fortson, who plays Cassie.
Doing the 3 names a lot with child actors.
You know why? It's because so many of these names have already been taken. They have to.
Right.
They're going to have to start coming up with 4-name kids pretty soon. But there's those couple of scenes that she has that just pull on the heart.
Oh, yeah.
And then also the foreshadowing. I don't know how much you know about like the Ant-Man universe, but you know, she does become a hero.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I know.
Not trying to be like that guy. I'm just saying, I don't know how much you know about that. I didn't know about that until I started getting into it.
I was trying to see what other things she's in. She was in A Dog's Journey. That's right. I remember that.
Oh, wow.
Movie.
No, I'm good. But now the only thing that I will say that is a negative looking forward to Quantumania is that obviously they had to recast because she aged.
I didn't realize. I knew it was the same little girl from the first Ant-Man.
Yeah.
But she does look different.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, she's
aged,
like 6 years older.
Yes, I know. But
well, that's what I'm saying, though. I feel like now. Okay, so the girl that they ended up recasting for Endgame is a different actress than who they're going to be using in Quantumania. Who's also a different actress than this girl. So I understood why they had to recast for that because she wasn't old enough yet. But I think she is old enough now where if they went back to her in a sense to be able to utilize her for now that enough real life time has gone by. So it's the only like casualty that I'm like,
It's only because of the continuity between the first 2 movies, right?
But yeah, that's what I feel about that. Let's talk now about the special effects.
Okay.
So the glaring thing is that they had 3 characters that they had to de-age for at least 1 or 2 scenes.
Yeah.
It looked amazing.
Yeah, they did a good job.
Comparing what Michael Douglas looked like in Ant-Man 1 versus Ant-Man 2 when they did the de-aging, it was night and day difference.
Right.
And it's so crazy how much the technology improved during this time frame.
I'll even mention, you remember when the Tron movie came out, the Tron Legacy or whatever it is,
yeah.
And then they de-aged for that, and that was that was like supposed to be like at the time, like, oh my god, everyone was like losing their mind over it.
I was the only one who didn't like it. It was so uncanny valley.
Like a cartoon. It was the mouth.
Thank you. It was right here.
Yeah,
it was right here, and it was 100% like the best video game graphics you're ever going to see.
Sure.
For that time frame.
Right.
And it was amazing. But people that were like, oh, I couldn't even tell. I'm like,
you could tell.
I don't want you on my team during the apocalypse because the robots are going to get you. I'm just being honest. I don't want you on my team. But no, that was awesome. The ants, I think, were once again stellar.
Yeah.
And we had, instead of only having a couple of the larger ants like we did in the first one, we had tons of big ants.
Yeah, mostly.
Yeah. Once again, it went from like a 30-second little portion of the quantum realm in the first one to now we probably had like 10 minutes in the quantum realm.
Yeah.
Of the visuals.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely gorgeous. Of course, there is the scene where in the far background you can see the city that's back there. And it's like, was it real? Was it not real? Yeah, now we know it really was.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool. The one I will say, okay, so this isn't necessarily special effects or CGI, but it was the one thing that I thought was super, super cool that I never really paid enough attention to is his wife, Janet. When she shows up in the quantum realm, the fact that her weapon is the wing of her suit.
Yeah.
Now she's turned into some sort of, it looked kind of like a sword.
Sure.
And it was just like, that was cool. The way that they took the mask and she didn't need the full thing anymore. She just needed like a little faceplate like thing. I thought it was very clever that they made it like she was scavenging.
Yeah.
But she's still a genius.
The apocalypse for her, right? She's like, dystopian, like.
Well, hopefully in like a week or so, we'll find out exactly what it was like for her.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I'm super psyched about that, by the way.
Yeah, we're getting a lot larger part of the movie being.
I believe like probably I'm gonna guess like 90%.
Most likely.
Yeah. The first like 20 minutes probably won't be, and then the end credit scenes probably won't be.
All right.
But yeah, as far as like the directing, do you know, was it the same director? I think it was Peyton Reed for both, right?
Let's see. Of course, my phone's glitching.
Well, not only that, but I didn't think about
Peyton Reed for that one. And for Ant-Man, it is Peyton Reed. Yeah, same.
Yeah, but he's not doing Quantum Mania apparently.
Ah.
I feel like I knew that, but
I didn't know that.
I feel like I knew that, but I'm not like. Oh wait, hold on. Nope, he is. I'm an idiot.
Okay.
On IMDb, the upcoming tab wasn't expanded. So
got it. So funny enough, the first movie was rated a little better than the second one, which I'm not surprised.
I'm not surprised on that,
but it's just interesting.
I didn't realize how many things he had actually done that I was aware of. Oh wow, he was the director of Bring It On.
Wow,
just putting it out there.
Bring it.
Oh, it's brought. We're both quoting Be Cool, The Rock doing the monologue, right? Okay. Yeah. Just making sure we were both from the same point here. But no, I felt that there was nothing groundbreaking as far as like the cinematography and the shots they chose or any kind of aspect that they chose to go in with the direction. But that's not saying that it was bad. It's just that there was nothing that made me go, rewind it. We have to watch that again. Right. There was you heard me. I was sitting next to you. It was like, oh, I'm always going to make sounds and remarks with like a cool hit or like a cool little like near miss type thing. Right.
There was only one time that you really reacted. It was when they hit them with with the building in the face or whatever in the.
Oh, that one I got really loud because I got like angry because I'm like, what is going on with this damn building physics?
Yeah.
But no, there was a couple of things that I thought that were super cool.
We had more reactions to the jokes than we did the action.
Dude, okay, Hank Pym got so many awesome one-liners to throw at Scott Lang's character.
Yeah.
Because like do you want a juice box and some string cheese?
Yeah. Do you have that?
Do you actually have that? That's the best part. Because then if you also know the fact that he needs orange slices and like other snacks because his body is going through all those changes. So it is actually kind of funny.
Right.
And then also
I like the daydreaming comment.
Yes. Are you gonna quit daydreaming about my daughter so we can get this done?
Well, because it's funny they address that because in movies that is a pet peeve of mine whenever like there's those filler moments in between where they need to rush to do something. Yeah. There's a timeline.
They've already said like, hey, we have 5 minutes.
Right. And then they're talking about like, hey, so I just wanted to talk to you about that one thing that we did. And it's like, right now you got to do that thing. So it's like, it's funny how he's like, you're going to keep daydreaming about my daughter or you're going to get the office back, get the building back. And he's like, yeah, all right, go.
And I do think that there was one moment in the beginning. Now I can't think of what it was. But it was another time where the character for Scott Lang says the smart thing.
Okay.
And it was in the beginning. It was similar to like, I think the first thing we should do is call the Avengers.
Right.
From the first one, he had another one of those moments in the beginning where it was like, hey, we shouldn't be doing this. You need to be doing like X.
Right.
And now I can't remember what it was.
Yeah.
But it was another one of those types of things.
I think it was adorable how he did the whole like fort thing with his daughter and the whole heist. you know, he's and all that showed their relationship and that bond better. And how
it still showed that he answered Cap's call, right? Without really knowing what was going on. He just showed up because Cap asked.
Right.
But at the end of the day, his daughter's still the most important thing.
Right. Well, it was the world.
Right.
You know, and he realized if I need to do this, like they need help, and I'm the only one who can help with this.
Right.
And I think, you know, that he knew the risks there. And I don't think he actually, going into it, he probably didn't understand the consequences
going into Civil War.
Yeah, only because
nobody
he was just helping the
Accord.
He was helping the heroes, right?
Well, yeah,
he was a hero. He was helping
Captain America asked him.
Right.
It wasn't like it was just some guy.
He's the good guy. I can't get in trouble for this. Like, so
America's in his name,
right?
Like, okay, we have like 5 minutes left. Let's go ahead and let's just talk about like the overall like place in the fandom that this movie takes place in.
Sure.
Right. So once again, thinking about it at the time of release, I remember being in theater. I remember watching it, and I remember going into the theater going, when is this supposed to take place? Because the snaps already happened.
I remember. Yeah.
And so it's like, what is going on?
Right.
And you forget about that 20 minutes in because it's a good movie that pulls you in.
Sure. Yeah.
And then when they're at the end credit scene and all of a sudden you're like, okay, guys, it's not funny. And it flashes back and it's just 3 piles of ash just falling. You're like, and the stakes just all of a sudden became real again.
Right. Right. Yep.
That obviously affects the movie going experience when you're in that moment, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now, since we're past that, looking back, it still had some pretty cool like weight to it.
It was smart. It was just clever.
It was really well done.
Yeah. And how it's such an early glimpse of where they're going with the MCU and whatnot, and how this movie was the movie that did that, right?
Well, and it's kind of like what I was saying earlier. I don't know if this was the original intent. I mean, we'll never know because people will lie about it because now it is.
Sure.
Ant-Man is the linchpin in the MCU.
Yeah.
Without Ant-Man being stuck in the quantum realm, because I agree with you. I think that's the reason why he didn't get snapped or dusted or blipped or whatever you want to call it. If that didn't happen and that rat didn't mysteriously step on it when it was in cold storage, Thanos wins.
Sure.
There is no time heist, you know?
Right.
And the same token, if that would have happened, yes, that would have been a dark timeline, but we wouldn't have what's about to happen.
Right.
Because apparently, from the way that it looks, the catalyst of Kang escaping from the quantum realm is due to something that Scott Lang agrees to do.
Sure. Yeah, that's how they set it up in the preview.
Yeah, I don't know yet. Obviously, we have like another week and a half. Is it next Friday? I think it's next Friday.
I have no.
I have an alert in my phone. I don't know. We have tickets. That's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
Yeah. So overall, I really enjoyed the movie. I'm not gonna lie. When we were talking about watching these movies, I was looking forward to watching the first one, of course.
Sure.
I was like, and then we'll watch the second one.
Right.
I forgot how much I liked the second movie.
Because it's just the first one plus just more plot. Like plus more. It gives you, it does the same thing. It gives you the same feelings.
Because of the fact of when it came out, it was like, oh, wow, that was really cool. Let's go Endgame. Come on. When's this going to come out? Yeah. I'm ready. I'm waiting. Come on.
Oh, yeah.
Like we were in that stage. And so I feel like that kind of did have a little bit of a putting this on the shelf type situation for
Sure. Yeah.
But what about you? What is your overall?
This movie just progresses really story and plot and sets up the next phase in the MCU. It's really apparent that that's what this movie was supposed to be for. Mm-hmm. You knew that it was just that in between to get to where we are with Quantumania.
Yeah, I feel like it was a
filler.
It was a very good foundation laying movie in the same way that when we saw Thanos in the Avengers.
Yeah, with his
or Guardians rather.
with the bad CGI and
When it was a completely different person.
Yeah.
And he was more red than purple. Yeah, I agree. But I think it was the same thing where it's like, hey guys, this is what we want to do. So we're gonna sprinkle in what we have to sprinkle, but we're not gonna put too much eggs in that basket in case we can't follow through.
Right.
So
yeah, it was yes, it was good. It did everything you wanted it to do. It was entertaining. The action was good. It moved the plot along. It did its job.
There was no major downs where you were like, okay, this 5 minutes could have been cut. You know, I think everything was pretty essential.
Honestly, Mike, they did the exact same movie as the first one, even to in the interrogation room scene.
Oh yeah, they took everything that was good.
They just put it back in the movie, just in it's slightly different.
And so, you know, let's 30 minutes. Let's see how it works out for the sequel. Hopefully it continues on this path as we are now starting with a new phase.
Yep.
So that's what we have to say about that.
That's what we got.
So yeah. Thanks for watching our screen discussion on Ant-Man and the Wasp. If you enjoyed this, make sure you double check back to the video of talking about the first movie of Ant-Man, as well as some of the other ones that we have covered as well.
And we're going to watch the next one.
Yes.
Tickets are purchased.
Anticipations are high. And I'm extremely excited.
Quantumania, here we go.
I want to see Kang just do some stuffs.
I'm excited for that.
I know some stuff that I am angry that I know about, and I can't wait for you to see it so that then I can talk about it. I've been holding it in for a month.
Don't tell me.
Oh no, I wouldn't do that to you. But anyway, thanks again for watching. Leave a comment, subscribe,
do all the stuff.
All that stuff. Hey.
Adios.